Alex Answer here. It is February 4th in the year 2019. In this video, and I don't know exactly how long it's going to be, but it's not going to be short, I'm going to be diving into select areas. I have not read this whole book. I'm going to be going over certain passages for the first time with you. When I opened it up for the first time, however, when I was at the library, it came up on the section of India. Why is that relevant? And I mentioned a recent video, and I'll give a few extra details that I forgot to mention. I don't normally have mystical dreams so direct to where it sounds like even within me that a name is coming to me. So Vishnu, which is known as the supreme deity in the world of Hindu mythology, which I've never previously studied, came to me around the time that another YouTuber by the name of Bill Gorman was introducing me to the idea of some of these rocks in my own backyard, if you will, not being exactly what they appear to be. Maybe there's something about the living world or the natural world that has more spirit in it than what we might think. And so there's various different theories that I even shared with you. Other people have ideas regarding the fall of Atlantis, petrified giants, nature spirits. There's a number of different things that I feel that I was tapping into regarding the world's mythologies. And it's interesting, the world of YouTube regarding astrology, and I take a lot of that with a grain of salt. Sometimes there are people that are talking about things that hit the nail on the head. And there were people that were talking about after the 12th of December. Sometimes it's almost as if I have dyslexia and I talk pretty quickly. Sometimes I try to come back and correct some of the points. Um, the specifics, December 12th, there was a lot of people talking about portals opening. And I know that my own kind of video series for about 10 days on this channel had a particular focus on the idea of the ancient world in my own backyard, the idea of ancient civilizations, how it relates to things taking place now, even some of the wars that are taking place now. Not all people that research these things, and that's all right, but not all ufologists, not all that are into forbidden archaeology take it to the point of looking at why there's such division amongst the people alive today, and how can we find kind of in that week myself stumbling upon different mythologies that may have been telling the same story. One can look at even carvings in the rocks or other things that manifest in the rocks, perhaps through some other phenomena, perhaps spirits like Han Solo in Star Wars being trapped within the rocks, looking at certain shapes and faces, even in some cases one-eyed deities. Things like Odin of Norse mythology come to mind, as well as other things. That's what I'm getting at. It's like when you start looking at the world through different eyes, and the idea of even the story of the world representing itself through nature in some cases. One could say that that's quite a god shot. So the first situation with Vishnu coming to me was just simply the name, but several weeks passed, and that include looking deeper at those rocks in a way that I've never looked at rocks ever at any time. It's almost as if something activated within me, and maybe some of you felt it as well. Others were laughing or are, and that's fine. Everyone has that right. But the second kind of sign that seemed to be activating from within was what seemed to be a vision of a cow or bull walking up that road or side street, and a sense of fear within me, and like some sort of drama, dream. One way to describe it is going from one image to that image dissolving to another image to where you're not getting 30 frames per second. The bull was just slowly getting closer and closer, a sense of fear, sense of not really being able to run, but being in slow motion, attempting to run into my shed, but the bull coming in anyways and showing me its eye. Now, I'm not sure if it had two eyes and it kind of leaned in at an angle, or if it just had one eye, and what would be the symbolism, or what would that be symbolic of. Right around the time I was making a particular video that was tapping into the archetype of the hero. And there was even a video by another YouTuber that was talking about interpreting the covering of the eye in different ways, depending on which eye is covered. And then just my own imagination, looking at this world of inversion. And that's where we deal with the archons, which I've been discussing for years. The Gnostics talking about the archons, but giving my own modern spin on this world of inversions, where up is down is up, and they tell us that 2 plus 2 equals 5.7. So, how is this relevant when we start looking at stuff like this? Well, already I am a person that will pay attention to things that dramatically change in the dream sense, where things that are not so common manifest that could potentially be signals, messages from within our own DNA. And a person like me can live their entire life where only one language, well, there's many languages that are spoken. I only speak one language. I've only come across so much information in English. Certain things, of course, that are written in other Englishes or languages, because I don't understand other languages, I'm not going to come across other ways of things being communicated. And things are communicated in a way expressed through words, through the limitations and scope of what those languages will allow. So let me just keep that in mind. So certain things regarding mythologies also grew up with, I guess, my fair amount of struggles, but not under a religion. And really, a person that has been on his own for many years after 18 came to his own understanding, especially through my own struggles. Through my own struggles and the things that I've triumphed over and things that have come to me, I've come to my own spiritual understandings. And it was really important for years to pass first and come to my own understandings. Certain events that got us in that war, for example, being able to see people duped into the illusions of separation. That's one example of many. I can get into many more, but I use that example. Um, there's many sub examples under that one, in fact. So I've had my own experience in life with knowledge and gnosis coming to me, sense of divine intervention in certain cases, sense of evil attempting to interfere. A lot of common themes between myself, things that seem to match things that were spoken of in the ancient world or in ancient texts. So we talk about samsara and the reincarnation time wheel, and how a lot of things are existing under the supreme deity of Vishnu within Indian mythology. I could see a parallel between that. And by the way, I do look down, not because I'm reading a script, but because it is bright to look at those lights. And it's not exactly like very stimulating to look into like that webcam. Whereas if I look down here, oh, there I am. Hey, I could see what's going on. I could see that I'm holding up a book. I could see that I'm in frame. Right. So there isn't like a script here. If there was like a bunch of words and stuff, man, that stuff should be on the website. There are ways in which people perceive things through one side of YouTube watching 2D, where they may just not know certain things. I can also work to bring, at some point, the computer up more to a level to where the camera is. So there's more eye contact. But I do try to work to keep a certain amount of light. Segueing back to where we are, it is about the light. And there's so many topics on my channel that deal with, obviously, the conspiratorial and the dark side. Things like this do balance it out. And I do have an active interest in various elements of the world's mythologies. At times, it can be difficult for me to focus on it, though. But it's been important for me to slow down and tell some of these stories as to why I pay attention to certain clues. And they may be there just for me, even though I'm sharing this with you. There could be things in which you see in a dream, certain books that jump out at you at the thrift store, and there's a reason why you should maybe grab it at the moment, even if you're not going to read it at the moment, and kind of shelve it for later. And that's what I've done with most of those books. Yeah, there is a sense that one day things are going to melt down and there's just going to be books. I actually see a combination of those books. Like if I can get my prepper books that I had stored up in a cabin, they're still there in Estacada, and combine those with the current spiritual books. Not so much big into the conspiracy books. There's already stuff I've already gone through and a lot of stuff online, but it's more things that are really there to empower oneself, to protect one's spirit, to almost see beyond the realms of the unseen, to see beyond the veil. And so there's different perspectives, right? There's several books now on psychic self defense, several books now on Native Americans and the Hopis, also known as the Anasazi. to the Navajo, and other books and other things. I've mentioned before several books on an ancestor who's well known for his contributions to Sufi mysticism, and some of that seems to be in my blood, on at least on one side. And there's even things on the other side that seem Arthurian and seem to be a big, strong influence. In which it seems to be I'm reading other elements of that DNA, elements of Norse mythology coming to mind, and a deeper history that I was actually never told verbally, but something that during certain times we can feel within our blood. And can there be certain times in which, through certain energetic conjunctures, events, moon positions, phases, that we're a little bit more tapped into what's there, and other times in which we're less tapped in? I'd say the answer is yes. So, of course, this is why we want to be careful what we're tapped into. Okay, I don't want to tap too deeply into what's literally on the news wire. I've talked in other videos where I get a little bit more detailed into maybe some things that are taking place and how disappointing it is to feel like there's an algorithm keeping us down. And a lot of that's of this egoic fallen world. So, yeah, I think things like the spiritual parasites, also known as the archons, are pretty much allowed to exist under that which we will be reading about in just a moment. We're actually going to stop on this video. When I come back, we're actually going to begin to read some of these chapters, beginning with India and then looking at elements of Norse mythology, looking at Buddhism, looking at elements of Native American, again, the cosmic struggle between good and evil, the interplay of male and female. So there's a lot of different things, and there may be a way that you've looked at life for years, and maybe you thought like, "Wow, this is really revolutionary. Wow, I'm really," but maybe it's not. Maybe it is for like people of our generation to be waking up to spiritual truths because we're surrounded with the McDonald's way of looking at the world through a soda lens, right? It's like ridiculous. We're already living in the world of idiocracy where people are laughing at my balls. I mean, literally, jackass. Must I go on? So let this be an introduction to our examination of the Encyclopedia of World Mythologies. In order to understand where we're going, we also need to understand where we've been.